Hey, my name is Marthea Pitts, the MSW coach, and I am back for another episode of my podcast, Macro Social Work Your Way. So it feels like it's been a long time since I've just come on and talked. I've uploaded a client video recently, but I don't think I've come on and talked in a long time. Um, a large part of that reason is because behind the scenes, I've been working really, 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 really heavily with my current micro to macro career accelerator coaching clients, as well as my alum of that program who still work with me on an ongoing basis around like things that we are doing differently and the strategies and techniques to get macro jobs, maintain them, progress in their career. And they're really working well, like really, really working well. I started working with them super, super heavy around like March, I believe it was. Yeah, March. And we are seeing tremendous results. I'm not going to talk too much about them, not just yet, but we're seeing tremendous results. My people really, truly uh, are moving with the times. And so that could be an episode, that could be a topic for another podcast episode, but not today. But what I want to talk about today is something that I see a lot with the social workers that I get the honor, the privilege to talk to one-on-one during what I call my get to know you chats. If you don't know what a get to know you chat is, it's a Zoom conversation that I have with you one-on-one if you're interested in learning about coming into my group coaching program. And so I get to talk to a lot of social workers one-on-one. And one of the things that I notice a lot or encounter a lot with them when listening to their stories, because I'm a story collector. So, and I'm a macro social worker. So I ask a lot of questions and just naturally, I'm that person. I like to understand people's experiences and I don't have any notes. So I'm just talking. But what I'm going to get ready to tell you is going to be very important, especially if you are still in like the early stages of your career. And I would classify early stages as the first 10 years. If you are still 10 years or less, like in the actual workforce for your profession, this conversation is very, very, very important for you to hear. Um, what I notice is that a lot of younger, early career professionals, so those who are under the age of 30, right? And I'm not trying to be ageist, I'm just telling you what I see. Those who are under the age of 30 who have been working as a social worker for less than 10 years, really, really struggling with like burnout, the early stages of burnout, um, and just not really being in a place of full self-actualization, right? So, um, what I mean by that is I see a lot of like superstar people who really, if in the right organization, in the right position, in the right like role for them, a position that allowed them to tap into not just their professional like competencies, like the things that they've amassed as a part of matriculating through their social work degree programs and multiple degrees around social work. Maybe they have an undergraduate degree, they have a graduate degree, but people who just are naturally sharp, right? So what that may have looked like was in high school, you probably were in the National Honor Society. You probably stayed on the honor roll. In undergrad, you were on the dean's list and the president's list. And you just have always been a high, what I call a high achiever. what I see from those types of people specifically, like you probably won awards, you probably did like a lot of research in your graduate programs, you are well accomplished. What I see happen to them is that they are being over, like, I don't know the word, being overcome by burnout so early on in their career that it really, really, really concerns me. It concerns me because that wasn't my experience because I was a non-traditional student. Like I didn't get into the workforce until like my mid-20s. I didn't get into the social work profession until like my early almost close to mid 30s. So like my experience is very different from them. But for the people who went from undergrad social work, graduate social work, and then jumped into the job market, let's say they did advanced track and they were in social work at like 23, 22. I think my youngest client, coaching client, she's 24 when she started working with me, and she had already been in case management jobs for like 3 years prior to that, right? So people like that, that's who this is who this conversation is for. What I see with you all is that you really are in a space where you are potentially damaging the likelihood for you to sustain your career long term to retirement, right? It's my hope that you hit. I don't play the lottery, but it's my hope that money fall out the sky and you become the next billionaire. You start your own thing and you become the next billionaire and you don't have to work to retirement. But the reality is that most people will, right? However, what I see is that a lot of the younger social workers really are struggling, and it makes me question their ability to sustain their career long term if they're experiencing burnout and career trauma and being overworked and just these horrible experiences early on in their career. It makes me want to understand, like, what are the implications of that on them long term. But more than that, because I think deeper than that is, what are the implications on them, on like their ability to get to the point of self-actualization, right? Because what I hear a lot from social workers in this group is that a lot of them either got social work degrees or took their case management jobs thinking that it would better position them for something else, right? But the reality is now they are 5, 7, 8, 9, 10 years into the game, excuse me, into the game, and still are in the same situation they were in pre-graduation, practicum days. And when I start asking questions about like what did their life look like undergrad, or what did their life look like in their graduate degree programs, or what did their career look like before they got knee deep in case management, they were really these superstars. Like they were doing research, they were in policy jobs or well, policy like practicums, or they were appointed to special commissions and were doing all of these things. But then when they get into case management work, because it's so, and you could feel how you want to feel. Because I only talk to macro social workers, right? We think that everyone's focus of work is different. When you, but when they get in these very entry level jobs, right, that don't require them to think on a critical, like deep level, or even in a way that requires high context, like an approach to work, but then they are constantly being either like, I hate to use the same words that people always use, but undervalued or demeaned or not being like valued for their contributions. It takes a toll on them as a person, right? What I see, and I'm not clinical, Okay. But what I see when they get to me is like a shell of themselves in comparison to the resume they told me about before they got into case management. It never lines up. And so this is what makes me bring this conversation forward today is that you are losing yourself. That's, I don't know another way to say it. You are losing yourself being in a place that does not challenge you on a deeper level based on how you are designed, right? Um, I heard someone say the other day that when you are not in a place where you're required to think on a critical level, like when you remove yourself from learning or remove yourself from like high level thinking, over time that can impact you in a not so great way, right? And so I feel like that's what's happening. But then deeper than that, I think it's taking a toll on them some kind of way internally because it's just like, I did all of this stuff. I made the dean's list. I made the president's list. I was exceptional. I was a part of the research team. I was paid to travel to Italy. I have a coaching client like that. He used to travel as a part of his graduate program. I'm glad I'm working with him because I was like, come work with me. Please come work with me. But he used to travel internationally. He's a superstar, right? I work with superstars. So it's something that happens when they go from being here, being the star player everywhere they go, then to be here where they are basically like brought down back to earth. And a lot of the reason is not because something was inherently wrong with them. A lot of it is just because of the dynamic of the organizational structure that they find themselves working in, right? I always tell people, especially when I hear social workers like talk about the dynamics of what's going on in their like micro organizations around like I suggest this and the people don't listen, or I suggest this and now I got a target on my back. And I suggest it, which I understand all of that because I experienced it myself. But what I always have to tell them is the reason you're experiencing that there is because that organization is not designed to do that level of work. So if you come in suggesting someone to change a whole internal system or to address something that's outside of their organizational scope, you will become the target on the back because you're trying to create more work for them. But over and beyond that, you don't fully understand the business structure here. They don't get money to pay for that. So what happens is your argument becomes we're not doing enough when the reality is they can't do it, right? They can't do it and they don't want to do it. And so there's this mismatch that happens. I call it a micro macro mismatch. There's a mismatch, a misalignment that happens. But so you are pushing back and then they push back. However, they are the ones with the power and authority within the organization. So it looks like for you, from them, that they're going to do things that essentially like knock you down a peg. Every idea you suggest, they're gonna kick it in the face. Everything you bring to the table, they're gonna pick it apart because they feel like you are too high for the organization, right? And we could talk about that. I don't think people talk about it out loud, but it's a real thing in those types of organizations where if you come in thinking you're bigger than the organization, thinking your ideas are bigger than them and what they're doing there, they will silently like sabotage you. And so what I see is a lot of social workers experiencing that dynamic, but then I also see them experiencing like the internal dialogue conflict that's going on. Like, I did all of that to be here, right? And it's not that you think you better than it, but it's because you know that you can do more, right? You know that you can be more. And that's what I used to feel. That's what I used to feel when I was working in call center jobs before I got degrees. That's what I used to feel all the time. It's like I can do more than just answer calls and triage calls. Like I'm bigger than this. I'm bigger than this. Right? I'm bigger than this. I was a big deal when I was in school. You get what I'm saying? So, however, though, I say all that. Let me give it. I say all that because what happens though is when you stay too long in those organization types, they will wear you down. And that's where I see social workers. They're either in the early stages of that, the midway point, or they're quickly approaching the end. And if you allow yourself to get to the end where they're wearing you down and they're wearing you down and they're wearing you down, what will happen is you will lose yourself. You will lose yourself. And so this is where I say like long term this needs to be looked at because then I have the honor on the opposite end to get to talk to the social workers who would be considered maybe like mid-career. Not late career. They're like mid-career. So they've probably been in their career 15 years, 18 years, right? Not yet to 20, but 15 to 18. I've seen extremes with them where they're on permanent burnout leave, where they have completely walked away from the job market, where they are struggling health wise. All right, I have a coaching client, and I said I was going to do an episode on this. A coaching client, she talked about it in her video that we did together here on YouTube and on my podcast. But when she was in her case management job, she would go to the hospital every week because of the emotional duress her body was under. She got her macro job and she hasn't been to the hospital in over a year. She's lost weight, she's prioritized herself. But I was thinking about that the other day, and it's just like because every time I talk to her, she talks about like how much better she's doing health wise. Health wise. And she's a superstar, baby. Ain't nobody gonna see her. She will run circles around you, okay? You, me, and five more of us high achievers. She is a superstar. Okay. So when you take a superstar, right, who has all of this, think of a star. What were your little dancing star? Think of a star, the light shining everywhere. You take that star and you put it in a box and you put tape all around it and you sit it in the basement in a dark corner, and then you put a blanket over it and it can't no light shine from the star. What will happen? And I think that's what happens to superstar work people. When you go into an organization, they're going to do anything to kill out your light. So again, I didn't have an outline, but I just wanted to name that for you. My early career professionals, I want you all to be on high alert. And I want you to understand that you can avoid that cycle. Right? And what I know to be true is that the reason that is happening is because you are not in alignment. You are not in quality jobs. You are not in organizations that see the value in your corporate and your contributions, largely because it doesn't align with their scope of work. It's not because they hate you. It's just because you are in the wrong setting. You're in an organization that's designed to put the band-aid on the problem, to triage the issue. Whereas you're a systems thinker, you're like, how can we really solve this? There are organizations like that. And that's where the superstars hang out. How do I know? Because I worked in them. I worked with people who were like on presidents, like special commissions, and did their internships and practicums at the White House and were doing research in like high school. I worked with a lot of superstars in my last macro job, like superstars. That's where you belong. And it's okay. I have a coaching client. It's like every time I talk to her, I have to give her a heart to heart. And it's just like, because she's a superstar. Everybody I work with is a superstar. That's why I don't appeal to, I talk to a very specific person right? I really do. I talk to a very specific person, a person who's super ambitious. And it's not ambitious in the fact of that you're trying to be competitive with someone else, it's that you're competitive with yourself, but it's with purpose and intent. You are very strategic in thinking. That's another reason why you're feeling drained and uneasy is because you're moving with no strategy when you were used to moving with strategy. You're used to moving with understanding and like knowing the why behind it. But now you're in an organization where you don't know those things and you don't even really know why you're doing what you're doing in your career. So anyway, I have a coaching client. She's a superstar, and I always have to give her the same little heart to heart, which we're working on it. She just started working with me. And I'm always telling her like, it's okay to say that you're good at what you do. Like she doesn't want to say it out loud. It's okay to say that you're good at doing what you do. Right? I had to learn that for myself. She will not do it, but we're working on it. That's the other thing. I do a lot of development work with my people. I'm not just teaching how to write resumes over here. I'm teaching you how to show up in your career and how to not let people drown out what's in you and how to not let people make you feel any kind of way because you are super ambitious and because you do have purpose and intent in your career and because you are concerned about other people. Ain't nothing wrong with that. See, another reason too is a lot of people are like drowning, not literally, is because you are easily being overtaken by the ways of the universal career seeker. The universal career seeker, they just want a job. When you are a mission-driven professional, you need meaning and purpose behind your work. And if you are not connected with it, you won't do it. If you are not connecting with it, you're going to hate every day that you have to do it. If you're not connected with it, and I'm not talking necessarily about personal, but just have a buy-in for or support it and believe it, it's not going to be good. So every time I talk to her, I have to be like, it's okay that you're good at the thing. Say you are good at X because that also helps you get jobs. That also gets you in the room with those other superstars, right? And that's another conversation I'm gonna have another day around like the importance of surrounding yourself with community. If you're a high achiever, go hang with the high achievers. You don't need to be with the other people. You play with them in elementary school. You need to go find you another sandbox, right? And you get with those people and you move the needle closer to progress. See, the thing is, when you're a high achiever and you mission driven, you feel like you're leaving people behind. But sometimes you have to push the agenda forward. And then once you've gotten yourself there and you've settled in and you've done a little time there, then you can go back and help the others. Okay? So I'm gonna leave that here. I'm gonna post this. I'm not gonna edit it, but this really is for my early career people. And I hope that you got something out of it. The main thing that I want you, I'm gonna say it this way. Excuse me. The plain language. Save yourself. Save yourself. Because if you keep waiting in fear, or if you keep waiting because you don't know what steps to take, you are diminishing your ability to maintain career longevity. And if this is your means of taking care of yourself, like financially supporting yourself and building the life that you dream of in the future, you're going to have to sustain this career. You too young to be burning out. What you gonna do then? How you gonna feed yourself? Where you gonna go? How you gonna take care of yourself? Okay. So I want you to, if you need to think about it in that way in regards to your basic needs, think of it that way. You have to sustain your ability to work, to show up, to be present, to maintain your basic needs: food, clothes, shelter, safety. Ain't that the next level up on Maslow's? You're going to have to be fully present for that. But if you allow yourself to stay in a situation and be overcome with burnout, you are putting all of that in jeopardy. Now, if you have a partner, you got some parents, you got a strong support system, who's willing to take care of you in those down moments, hey, don't listen to what I'm talking about. But if you ain't got none of that, which is my situation, you need to start safeguarding your money maker, which is you. This, your intellectual property, your brain. Okay? I'm gonna go. Happy macro career planning. Bye.